Okay. So there are a total of 3 functioning QuickBook files in QuickBooks. Okay. There is the QuickBooks working data file. Okay. Which is your number one and go to for everything. Okay. You also have a backup file and you have a portable file. Now, what a working data file is basically the file that you're currently working on or currently, creating XYZ. It's the only one that's going to be always updated at all times, okay? And the great thing about QuickBooks is it automatically saves everything. So you don't need to press that save button and save your work. It will automatically do it for you. But there is a downside to that. This condition only works if you have access to the internet at all times. So one thing that's a downside for QuickBooks is no matter what or where you are, you need to have internet in order to access QuickBooks. You can access files without using the internet, but you won't be able to enter in any data or XYZ. You can only view the file. So make sure that you know that you need to have internet at all times. And with that condition, then your file will automatically be saved at any given time. Okay? Now, that's only conditional for many things too, because oftentimes when we work with technology, sometimes one of these days, for some random reason, my internet cuts off, or for any reason, my computer decides to crash. So that is why we have a backup file in place. So a backup file is basically taking your working data file and saving it either on a flash drive or on another location to save your transaction and basically lock up those transactions for any reason your company file or your working data file crashes, is corrupted, you can't ever open it again, or for some reason it doesn't remember everything. And especially if you're working at a big major company and a lot of people are doing their transactions at the same time, it's important that you do a backup file, because if you or like 20 other users are entering data at the same time, and then one day the internet decides to just crash on you and making you guys lose all of your transactions, and you don't have a backup, that's where you're going to have to re-enter in every single transaction from where you left off, okay? So that's why a backup is recommended to have, especially for company files that utilize multiple user feature, as well as if you're entering a data or you're entering like 30 transactions in one day and then all of a sudden your computer crashes, and this is kind of preventative for you to lose the information, but also it's also going to be a hassle to have to put that information back in there again. So that's what a backup file does. It's just basically the same exact file with every content saved, okay? So in case your working file crashes, you still have the backup has all the information placed in there for you, okay? However, when you do a backup file, what happens is, let's say I was working on a data file, I backed up the company file. Now the next thing is I want to open up the backup company file. What it actually does is, again, it's a stable file. It contains all the information from the last time you backed up the file, or in other words, actually saved the file. When you open it up, what it does is it creates another data file. Okay? So, in essence, no matter what file you open, at the end of the day, it creates the working data file. Okay? So when you have a backup and you're trying to open it, it's going to automatically start creating a company file for you, a working data file for you. Okay? Now, of course, some things, for example, something that you need to either send to your coworker, colleague, or your boss, or things like that, or maybe you're sending a copy to the accountant, we have the portable file available, which takes your working data file and compresses it down to like a small ball. And what it does is it makes it easy to send over email or put on a flash drive. Okay, the working data file is a very heavy file because it's containing all of that information, right? For every amount of information that you put in, such as I put in all these people in there, 20 names, 30 names, 1,000 names, your file, the more names that you add into your QuickBooks, the more heavy the file becomes. And of course, transferring it over email is going to be a hassle, okay? Uploading it on a website is going to be a hassle. So that's why they give you the option to shrink it down, compress it, make it so small that you can send it virtually or whatever you like, okay? Now again, same thing with a backup file. When you create a portable file, you can't save it. So what happens is when you open up a portable file, it creates another working data file. So you're able to update it. And once you update it, you need to create another portable file with all the updated information. Okay? So for any file that's a backup file or a portable file, the minute you create it, you can never change it. Okay? The only way you can change it is to open it into a working data file and then having to recreate it to save all the extra information that you've placed in the original working data file. So at the end of the day, no matter what file you're actually truly working on, you only have one, and that is the working data file. The only one that you'll have that will always be updated, that will have the most recent transactions. And yes, and the other two are just in case you want to send stuff, or one in case your computer crashes. Okay? So of course, their dots at the end of the name is going to be QBW for working data file, QBB for backup file, and then QBM. I don't know what the M stands for. I'm assuming it's mobile, but I don't know because the name of it's portable. So no clue why it is a QBM, but it is a portable file. Okay. All right. Now, how to actually open a company file. So when you open up QuickBooks, the very first thing is you're going to get this little gray screen with a home page just like this. Okay. You're going to have two options. You either create a new company file, or you're going to open an existing working data file, backup file, or a portable file. Okay? So in this case, we'll talk about creating a new company file tomorrow with chapter 12. And then, of course, we're also going to be looking at how to open up a portable file, because that's what most of the exercises are entailing. We're going to be constantly practicing opening the existing company file. Okay. Well, first things first, we're gonna look at opening a company file. So when you press that middle button, you have three options that you can choose from, and it's the three working files three different types of files that we just talked about: the working data file, the backup, or the portable file. Now, of course, if you're working on the computer and you're currently working on a data file, you can just open that one and select it wherever you saved it onto your desktop. Okay? And of course, if you want to do a backup instead, you just press the middle one. All right? And then it's going to ask you a question to save it somewhere. Okay? Because again, when you open up a backup file, you're actually essentially creating a new working file. Okay? So, yes. So in order to actually be able to create the backup file, it's pretty straightforward. You go to File and you click Backup Company. All right? And it will give you options. Do you want a local backup, or do you want to restore it or create a location. Restore it. Okay. In this case, when we do backups, again, you want to save it either somewhere on your computer, your files, your storage files, something like that to create a backup file. Okay. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And we'll get to look at how to do that. Not today, I believe tomorrow. Okay. And then lastly, the other option is to open up a portable file. So in order to do that, you're going to create it. Once you open it, you're going to create a working data file. So it's going to ask you where to save it. And then lastly, how do you even save it or create a portable file? Pretty straightforward. Again, you go to File, and you're going to do Send a Copy or Send Company File. And it's going to give you the option. You want to do an accountant's copy or you want to do a portable company file. So pretty straightforward as far as saving and stuff or creating multiple files. But again, you want to be very careful with that because you don't ever want to create way too many files that your desktop becomes overloaded with too many extra files. So you want to make sure you want to limit on how many files that you create. Okay. All right. Any questions in regards to learning about the different types of files?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And we will, again, practice how to open them and save them as well. Okay. All right. First things first, under user interfaces, when you actually open up QuickBooks and you open up your file, first things first is this is going to be the general layout for every single default QuickBooks settings, okay? And we'll talk about customizing how the feature looks in Chapter 7, which is going to be on Wednesday, okay? But for now, this is the general thing that usually pops up on any file that you open, all right? You got the standard home page, which we'll talk about, which is the middle section, which is a graphic depiction of every transaction that you can think of. At the very, very top on the gray part, that's called your menu bar, and that is actually going to be something that's going to list out all your transactions. And then on the left side is going to be your icon bar, okay? So let's talk about the home page real quick. So again, the home page is going to be a graphic depiction of any transaction that can exist or occur in QuickBooks. So for example, let's look at making a sale. Okay, so creating an invoice. Okay, so sales is usually typically under the subsection here. As you can see, it's broken into 3 categories, right? The top one is your vendors, the middle one's your customers, and the bottom is your employees. So obviously sales are dealing with your customers because you don't sell to your vendors, you sell to customers. So here, under the customer section, we have create an invoice, all right? Once you create your invoice, as you follow the line, the arrow across to the right side, you're going to see that you need to receive a payment from them. And then as we continue on with that line, it goes straight to the record deposits button. Okay, so again, the home page is pretty much the easiest form of entering in your transactions because it's pretty straightforward, especially if you're a beginner for QuickBooks. If you don't know what the next step is, just follow the graphic depiction line and it will tell you what the next one is. So for example, if you're going to enter a bill, well, what's going to happen after you enter a bill? You need to pay the bill. Okay, pretty straightforward in terms of making it a lot more easier for you to understand the flow of a transaction. And this gives you the graphic depiction. So you're able to do transactions with a minimalist understanding of accounting or transactions in general. Okay? Again, and this is also, that was just the majority of the graphic depiction. But on the right side is going to be your items or your things that you should generally often use. So for example, the top part's your company. That's usually where your chart of accounts is going to be, your items, which we'll talk about in a couple as we move further down to the course. And other things like if you need to have, order some more checkbooks or things like that, or need a calendar, okay? Whereas down below is your banking section, of course. If you're dealing with customers, you're obviously going to be dealing with money. And what do you do with that money? Do you make deposits? Do you write more checks out? So that's what that section is purely banking, writing out your checks, looking at your bank account or your check register. So that's what those features are there for, okay? Okay, so the next section is utilizing the icon bar. So the icon bar is pretty much a quick, it's like your quick access tool, right? It jumps you to the exact transaction that you need to go to. Or in this case, it gives you quick access to the centers that you need to go to. So for example, on my home page, I have things like calendar, bill tracker, income tracker. So the list goes on, and we'll look over this tomorrow, or maybe at the end of the day, that the list can go beyond what you want to have it, and you can customize it however you want. So if some details or some information are just more or transactions that are more common, you can put them on your icon bar. So basically it's just a quicker way to enter in a transaction or get you to an access point or a certain category. For example, I want to look at all my bills. You go to the bill tracker. Okay, so that's what it is. It's just a quick access tool bar that you can use to enter in or look for certain things. Okay, and then lastly, at the very, very, very top of the window, you have your menu bar. Your menu bar is going to consist every single transaction that exists in QuickBooks. Okay, and I'll also show you like a few things too. But the one thing that you need to know is that it's not customizable. Reason being is because it gives you every single transaction you can think of. So so especially for QuickBooks, if you are the kind that are going to have create other users to have certain access to certain areas. So that means you're going to be limiting what they can see and what transactions they can have on their menu bar. But as far as this is pretty much every single transaction that can be completed in QuickBooks is going to be utilizing through the menu bar. Okay, so the gray thing at the top, make sure you refer it as the menu bar. The home page is obviously pretty straightforward, the home page, and then your icon bar is going to be the left panel, the blue left panel, okay? Now, next section is introducing you to centers. All right, so there are actually multiple centers that actually exist in the QuickBooks, but the one that I really want to emphasize is going to be the people. Okay, meaning your list of vendors, your list of customers, and your list of employees. Now again, your vendors list or your vendor center is going to deal with anyone that you do business with. Okay, so anything that has to do, whether it's independent contractors or vendors that you have that supply you with the items that you are serving, or if they provide something to you. All right, so it's basically anyone that does something for you. So what the vendor center does is, and we'll talk about this in chapter 4, is pretty much an overview of your vendors. It gives you the list of every single one of them in alphabetical order. It gives you their account balances, and if you click on them, on the right side at the top window gives you like a brief like contact info about them. At the bottom of the section is going to give you a list of every single transaction that is involved with you and that specific vendor. So it's really cool about looking at these centers, and most transactions that are dealt with vendors are going to be dealt with in the vendor center, okay? Because you have options instead of just going to the home page. You can be able to pick a specific person and create or make a transaction for that person, okay? So those are, and the vendor center, customer center, and employee center, they're very, very similar. And we'll take a look at it as we go through each chapter in QuickBooks. Okay? So entering in transactions. So what we just looked at was the interface, meaning what are the ways that we can enter in a transaction. Now this is how we enter in a transaction. So of course, the first one is going to be entering it in like you're entering a form. If you ever been to the doctor's office and you're filling out a form, this is, if not the same thing. It pretty much gives you an outline of what criteria you need to fill out, and all you need to do is just enter it in. Straightforward. You fill it out like a form. So for example, here's a form for a purchase order. So at the very top is, who are you ordering? Who are you going to be making this purchase order out to? Okay. Other things are going to be, well, what is the item? How many do you want them? How many do you want? What's the price for them? Okay. So pretty straightforward. And then we're going to take a look at this multiple times. Okay. So entering it as if you're filling out a form. Okay. Other ones is going to be lists. So when we talk about when we talk about chapter 4, when we're entering in our vendors list, as well as our chart of accounts, things like that, you're going to be entering it in like a list. So for example, we have the ability to enter in multiple vendors at one time. And how you enter it in is pretty straightforward. You just enter in the information like a list. Okay, so maybe doing the list of all of your vendors' names, you could just put all the vendors' names in one list. Okay. All right. And then other ones is going to be registers. Okay, so when we talk about entering in things through the register, so for example, we will take a look at this when we dive into I believe chapter 2 or chapter 4. I think 4 will be the first exposure of writing a check. When we go to the check register, you can actually just enter in the information right here. So we'll take a look at what that means, okay? Where we get to place in the date and exactly what transaction we have in there for that specific person. Other quick notes factors is only assets, liabilities, and your equity accounts will have registers, okay? Those are the only accounts, okay? So your checking, your credit card will have one. Your equity account obviously will have one because you can pull money in and out of your company. But no expenses, no income will have any registers. They have what's called quick reports, okay? Because they don't have registers because those close out at the end of a given period, okay? So if you guys remember closing out your revenues and your expenses, meaning that whatever your period is, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly, you're never gonna ever open that account all the time. It's never open, okay? Where your checking account is, it must stay open in order for you to do business because that's where you're paying, receiving, etc., etc. And we'll show you how to enter in through a register soon, okay? Any questions on how to enter in a transaction?
Not yet. Nope.
Okay. Last section is going to be your QuickBooks help. So of course, for every single program, there's at the top of the menu bar, you have that help little button, and if you click that, it's going to give you options on what kind of help you can get from QuickBooks. So number one thing is if you come into a situation where you're stuck on QuickBooks or your QuickBooks is freezing or you can't access your file, you always have 24 hours QuickBooks support help at any given time. All right. So yes, you could, but you're able to access that through the help on your actual QuickBooks because they actually need the information from like what license you are. So they generally recommend you to, if you are using the QuickBooks, something's going on with it, you can't do something on it, they generally want you to utilize the help through the actual program. So it pulls all the information for you. Okay. So that's where you can also have access to get support and help. There's also another feature on here called the Ask the Accountant. Now, that is actually a paid service, okay? So we talked about how you can buy the program, right? You can buy the program, but other ways that they try to charge you or they try to get more money out of you is by creating extra services. And we'll talk about that when we dive right into payroll, okay? Payroll does not come free with QuickBooks. It's actually a paid service because you're paying someone to do the work for you. So it's a paid service and it's a subscription. So that's something that's going to be tacked on as extra if you don't want to do manual, if you don't want to file it manually, okay? But yes, it's a paid subscription if you want to ask the accountant. So if in case you have, you're self-employed and you're running your own business and you're not quite sure, and of course, given the fact that you want to ask an accountant for professional help. Obviously, if you're going to go to H&R Block and ask them that question, they're going to charge you. They're going to charge you for asking professional help. So same thing applies here, except this is more easy and more convenient. So yes, you can ask the accountant. Other things that you can do here is you can also upgrade your software. So here you have update to the latest software or latest releases. You can also even upgrade your program. If you have Pro, I can upgrade it to Premiere. Obviously, I have to pay for it. But yes, you can do it through here. It's all easy and easily accessible for you. And even if you don't want to and you're just deciding you just want to know more about it, you can go ahead and click on the informational tab on here and they'll be able to show you the detailing on that. You can also go to the QuickBooks website too. They give you pretty much details on every single product that they sell. So that is what QuickBooks Help and Support does for you. Okay? So that wraps up chapter 1. So let's go ahead and let's do the review questions. All right. So question number 1. Okay. The fundamental accounting equation that governs accounting is C. Assets equals liabilities plus equity. Yes, ma'am. Question number 2. Which of the following statements is true? C. Debits minus credits equals 0. Yes. This is a an accounting 101. If you know that debits equal credits, then you can also know that debits minus credits would equal to 0. Yes. Number 3, under the accrual accounting,
Yeah.
B, income and expenses are recognized when a transaction occurs. Yes, that is true. Okay, this has nothing to do with cash, right? So, next, number 4. Oops, I gave you the answer already. Sorry about that. But anyways, QuickBooks is
D.
D, all the above. Good job, guys. Okay, so yes, A, it is a job costing system. We didn't talk too much about that, but yes, it does do that. And well, this job costing, you'll see it in chapter 2, but more primarily towards chapter 9, okay? B, it's a payroll system. Yes, it can be. And we talk about that in chapter 11 when we actually start paying our employees. And then lastly, C, a double entry system. Yes, it is. QuickBooks is behind the scenes, but for you to enter it in is a single entry. Okay. All right, lastly, number 5, which is not a method of accessing the data entry. D, data entry button. Yes, there's no such thing as a data entry button. We only talked about the menu bar, home page, and icon bar. So yes. Okay. That is chapter 4, you guys, is going to go over a few things that we have here when you open up QuickBooks. So again, just a brief little thing before you go. So here we're looking at a true portable file that has been opened before. So this is from the previous class. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and look at my nifty F2 button. So here you go. So as you can see at the very, very, very top, it gives you the exact QuickBooks Program Edition I am using. See, it says here that I'm using QuickBooks Desktop Pro 2019. Releases 1. I've never updated this entire program since the day I got it. And the day I got it was September of 2019. So it's been about a year and a half and I'm still using the same one. It's just because, you know, I'm not an avid QuickBooks user. I don't use it for my personal or a potential company I'm using. I'm only using it for teaching purposes. And so far, I have not seen any bugs through my years of teaching this. I'm sorry, year of teaching this. So, yes, and it gives you my actual license number too. So please don't steal this. Okay, this is my copy and it's registered under my name, so make sure you don't steal this. But yes, that is, it tells you details into this as well. So for example, this is actually necessary because let's say your QuickBooks does crash for any reason and you cannot even open it for any reason. You can download QuickBooks again on another computer and utilize this actual license number because it is your license. Okay, I'm not quite sure how many computers or devices you can load this exact QuickBooks license number to. I just know that that's there, so then in case something does happen, or it's also when you call for QuickBooks support, you can pull up the license number and they'd be able to locate it. Okay. So as you can see, this is a existing file I have right now. Is if you can see at the very, very top of the blue bar, it's Academy Photography Inventory Problem Number 2. That's the file that I've currently opened, and as you can see, it tells me exactly how many total items or names I've used so far. So here. Gives me my total number of accounts that I've used, but it also gives me the total number of accounts that I have, right? Here's my total number of accounts. I have a total of 67 accounts. I have a total of 43 names, which are divided by 22 customers, 19 vendors, and 2 employees. So it gives you pretty much a rundown of everything, and it also tells you how many transactions have occurred, okay? And pretty much, yeah, and it gives you, pretty much the size of this file. So right here, it's 513. So it's the capacity is only 1,024, but it gives you pretty much like a synopsis of what the file does and what it in detail of what it contains. So in this case, there it is, okay, and that's what you can utilize to your advantage, okay. Other things, again, this is the home page. Again, as you can see, all the transactions are there, yeah. So again, same thing. When you want to create a file, you can create one right here. And you can always back up your file or send a copy to your accountant or whatever it is. Okay, and we'll practice this tomorrow for sure. When we create our company file, we're gonna practice backing it up, creating a portable file and whatnot. So that will all be tomorrow. Okay, so I just want to get you a little your feet wet a little bit by looking at an example file of the QuickBooks, but tomorrow we will dive right into it, and we will we'll get to actually take a walk through the park and go through every single stop. So other than that, if you don't have any other questions, you guys, any other questions?
Nope, I'm good right now.
I only have one question. So I need to have it all downloaded before class tomorrow.
No.
Right?
Okay,
No.
now
I just
I'm going to tell you this. So you have 5-month trial, free trial, with the book that you just received. Now again, I think you weren't here when this happened. If my personal recommendation is if this is your first time using QuickBooks, do not download it yet. Okay? Now I get it, you're home, you may have extra time and want to, brush up or freshen up in yourself, then yes, go ahead and download it since you're at your end of your program anyways. You don't have accounting after this. So it's good. It's a good for you that you can download it now because after this, you're going to get your practice exam. So what you can do is, like I said, my recommendation is read the book, watch my lecture videos, like actually pay attention on my screen. So as like a tutorial based kind of scenario. And then on your own time, go ahead and open up those practice files and do it on your own time. So
Okay, so I don't have to have the Microsoft, or not Microsoft. I don't have to have the QuickBooks downloaded in order to open the practice.
no, you do need to have QuickBooks in order to open up the practice files. Okay. So oftentimes what a lot of my students do is they go into their little flash drive and they just try to double click on the actual file. No, it does not work like that. You need to open up the program first, and then you need to come to file or on the home page, open the file. Okay. Because what's going to happen is you have a password that's going to protect it, and we'll talk about that tomorrow as well, and everything in for it. So again, you need to have the program in order to open the portable files, or to open any QuickBook file. But my recommendation is if you do feel the most comfortable, I have posted the instructions on how to download it. It may take a while, depending on when the support team gets back to you, and when they validate your actual that you're an actual student. So make sure that you read that before you do anything and go ahead and download the program. Okay? And I encourage you not to do it with me in class because of the whole, if you're not familiar with QuickBooks, you want to watch it first before you can do it on your own.
Got it.
All right, any other questions?
No, I'm nothing in regard to QuickBooks, but I was going to ask you here on, I like to go through all the things, the PDFs and everything. Not the taped version, but reading on my own. But the chapter 1 intro on mine is a 2015 introduction to QuickBooks.
2015?